And yeah, Power BI is more or less one of my favorite tools. I would say I had a lot of fun time actually last year exploring a lot of Power BI, and it has been growing more and more in popularity in recent times. I think I would describe it as one of the new age data analytics tools. So if any of us has actually been following the evolution of visualization tools all the way from the days of things like MicroStrategy and Excel, SSRS, and Tableau. So Power BI, I think Power BI is maybe like 8 or 9 years old, something. I think it started around 2015 or 2014. So it's actually quite a new tool on the market, but it's very popular these days, partly because it's part of the Microsoft suite, so it's very easy to access. And I would also say the barrier to entry is not very high, and it's in some ways it's actually very similar to Microsoft Excel. So, how many of us have used Power BI before? Can I get some responses?
Partially.
Progress.
I've used it before.
Okay, okay. What did you use it for?
I use it to just learn from it. Not really that much knowledge about it. Yeah.
Okay. Well, how many of us have used Power BI as an end user? Maybe you are working in a company and then there is a data team and then they produce the report and you just use it. Are the majority of us students?
Yes, I think so. We
Yes.
just want to.
Okay, okay. So yeah, okay. I think if we are mostly students, then maybe all we have just been hearing of is learn Power BI, learn Power BI, learn Power BI, and you don't exactly know what does Power BI do? Why should I learn it? And what does it have to offer to me? So I think we can start from that point then to start from okay, what exactly is Power BI and why is it important? So Power BI is a data analytics tool, like I said, and it's used for data visualization. So it's just a way of that we can actually build reports. Maybe in a company, we are building a report that other teams can use and present our data in a way that it's visually enticing and in an interactive way. So if I don't know if any of us use social media for maybe you do ads on social media and then you can open the analytics page and see okay how many impressions did I get today, and you can say okay I want to see the number of impressions I got last week. You can slice and dice the data and see different views and see what has been happening. So that's basically what tools like Power BI try to cover. And why is Power BI as a tool itself? Why is it nice? One of the sweetest part of Power BI is the fact that it's actually very beautiful. It doesn't take a lot of effort to actually get to something beautiful. If you were there in the early days of, or even if any of us here has done maybe a data science course before, and you have to build a visualization using Matplotlib or something like that, then you have to write a lot of code, a lot of customizations in order to make it work. Or even if you're a software developer, and maybe you have to do all of these graphics. So you know how difficult it is to actually get something moving, how unintuitive it can be. So that is one advantage of Power BI. Power BI is simply drag and drop, the same way we are used to in many of our daily workflows and things that we already do. Another advantage is the fact that it's also very flexible because of the drag and drop interface. To remove something and to change something is very easy. So when you've written a lot of code and okay, since most of us are students, then maybe you've not been in that situation before, but you are presenting to your boss and your boss says, okay, oh, okay, and you say, okay, this is the sales and we have it. We have shown in this PowerPoint. Let's say you have a PowerPoint, for example. Let's say you are using a PowerPoint, and you need to change something. So maybe you are presenting, and you're like, okay, this is our sales by category. This is the sales that is coming from this state, that state, blah 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 blah. And you finish saying all of these things, and your boss is like, okay, that's interesting, but can you drill down? I want to see the sales from each local government in in Lagos State, and then now you cannot simply change it from at that point. You have to go back, maybe go back to your Excel and go and redo the charts, and so it's far more flexible to do this kind of things in Power BI, and you can even give your users the ability to do the same thing. And then there is a connection to Power BI for enterprise cases, which is a very important use case. So I'm going to show us like you so in terms of the way Power BI works, because it works in a Microsoft suite, if you're in a work environment, usually you have your work email, and through your work email, you can access some like a sort of intranet where only people that work in your company can access. So having Power BI in this kind of case means that you can easily publish something that everybody in your company or people in a particular team that are interested in can actually see it. Can we see my screen? So,
Yes.
okay,
Yes, we can.
Yes,
Yes,
sir.
we
Yes,
can.
sir. Yes, sir.
okay, just to be sure. So I just wanted to show us an example of how it looks like on the web when you try to when you've created a Power BI visualization and you want to put it on and you want to put it in an internal, maybe in an internal website so that other companies. So you have what you call your Power BI workspace. Okay, I don't think I have it open here. Okay, I have it open here instead. So this kind of workspace, when you have something like this, your entire organization can easily access it. So here is one visualization I created at one as a personal project. So people in your company can easily, see what's going on here in this visualization. And let's say this visualization is actually a bit complex because it's a scatter plot, but you can see there's a lot of interactivity. So if I want to see this same data set and I want to see only 2021, I can change it. I can see 2022. If I want to see for a particular business line or for a particular company. So these are controls like when you've really built something that other people can actually use. It's something that you can build for people to use, and it's not only you that can use it. In the same way, you can also do it publicly and put it in your portfolio. So for example, I have a visual in my. Okay, I think I was sharing the wrong window actually. So about that. So in my portfolio, for example,
Your screen is
huh? Can you see my screen? Hello? Are you there? Is
Yeah,
some
I can see your screen from here.
what can you see?
Uh, everything is clear for me. It's clear. I'm following you.
Huh? Sorry, I didn't get that. Hello?
Yes, yes, sir. I said I can see your screen. I can see very well here.
Yeah, like what can you see?
Presently you are. I don't even notice. Is displaying my
Just showing document
inbox.
Yami.
Yeah.
Okay. Okay. So can you see a different website now?
Yes, I can see. Yes,
Okay.
I am Brad. Do you want to make sense of your data? You are
Okay.
in the
Yeah, okay. Just to be sure we're on the same page. So I just have this portfolio website I designed a little bit, not so beautiful. I'm not that good at building websites. But so I just want to show you how I just linked this Power BI report that I built. And from here you can simply just click the link and you can easily see the work I've done. So and it's very important. I mean, that's a very good thing for you if you are job searching, for example, where the work you have done, you can easily show your skill. You can easily showcase your skills in a Power BI report online that someone can just open. They can even interact with it. So maybe okay, in this case, um, this what this site does is something is actually something very simple. But what it does is that okay, maybe you want to go on a sky holiday, which maybe very few of us must have done because it's something that happens in the cold regions. I've never done it too. So, but basically, okay, you can set based on your budget range. Maybe you're interested in going to Europe. Maybe you want to actually to your holiday in December. So you can see that these results are changing based on the things I click. Okay, I'm a beginner. I don't know how to do anything. And it's showing me, okay, the kind of locations that I can go to where it's good for beginners. So I've done some calculation in the back end here that shows the ratings based on all of these. And I can just choose, okay, I want to see this location. Let me see more features about it and see if I like it. And from here, okay, it takes me to a new page. So, and all of this was built in Power BI. So without actually doing any software development or anything that relates to coding or things like that. And it has all of this interactivity. So you can actually do something more beautiful too. So these are just some of the reasons why you may want to learn Power BI because I think it's a common question. I mean, before you get into something, you want to know what are the possible benefits on the one hand, and on the other hand, there is also the fact that many of the things that you want to do in Power BI, you can actually do it in Excel. So you can actually analyze the data in Excel, you can clean your data in Excel, you can build a dashboard in Excel. But what are the additional advantages that Power BI has that makes it important for you to actually learn it? So, and that's what those are the things I'm trying to capture. So I think I should just change my screen sharing to the entire screen. That way we can move together without having to change so often. So yeah, seamless connection to other Microsoft suites. I think I've already mentioned that. So basically, one major advantage of Power BI is that it's part of the Microsoft suite, and most of us we know all of the Microsoft suites. You already know how to use Excel. You already know how to use PowerPoint. So by the time you're switching to Power BI, it's actually very easy. It's very relatable. So let me give us a scenario where okay we want to use Power BI to build something, and then we can dive into the practical aspect. They say, your boss just messages you, okay, look, man, I need a report. I want to prepare it to the CEO this afternoon. He wants to know how sales are performing all over the country, but please make it dynamic because we don't know what he's looking for. So if we do a PowerPoint report and we just show one particular view of the sales, he may not, maybe that's not what he wants to see. Maybe he wants to see other things. So, okay, so please make it dynamic so we can see our top performing regions, the growth of sales, we can see how we are performing this year versus last year. So, and then finally, an investor will be joining us. We want him to be able to explore the data at the end. But he's an external person, so we don't want him to have access to the underlying data. This is one thing you cannot do in Excel, for example, because in Microsoft Excel, in the sheets where you have your data, where you have your dashboard, your data is also there. So if you share that file to somebody, they also have access to the entire data. So, but in Power BI, there are so many ways that you can load in data. So let's dive into Power BI and we can start going into the results. How many of us have installed Power BI on our laptops?
Yes, I have it. I have it. Installed.
Okay. So if you have experience with Power BI before, maybe you can actually follow along with me as we are going through, and maybe although that may be a bit distracting. So if you are new and they are using it for the first time, it's probably the best that you just focus and then you can work on it on your own later. And if you run into any errors, we can look at it on the group or something. So but I will take us through an introduction I'll share this link with us. So we have a small data set. Let me put it in the chat. So you can download that data set because that's the data set I'll be using to build a dashboard. So this is the dashboard we are trying to build. Nothing super complex, just a basic dashboard, the kind of dashboard that you see on any simple tutorial website. But just for us to see the capabilities of Power BI and how easy it is to arrive at something like this that you can actually present at work. So, but I'm going to be starting from scratch. So just like any power, you can see that it's very similar to your what you already see on Microsoft Excel, PowerPoint, and stuff. You have your file aspect here. You have home, insert, all of these ribbons. You can see that they are all very familiar stuff. So I'm going to open a new file to create a new blank report, and we are going to walk through it together. So as we are walking through it, I will also be, using that opportunity to explain what we have in Power BI. At the end of the day, I will not be able to explain everything. Power BI is actually it has so many aspects, so many things, so many moving parts that you can only learn by exploring. So so you are still going to need to explore on your own, but at least the aim of this class is to try to give us a head start and see at the beginner level, just to see what is there and how to actually use it. So I want to don't get it. So when you open your Power BI, it brings you into home. So for those of us that have our data, you would have downloaded it. You'll see that you have a CSV file. Usually when you open a CSV file, now you can import your data from Excel. So if you already use Excel, it's very straightforward. Just click on import data from Excel and you can load your data in from here. But this is not the file I actually intend to use. You can see this is an Excel file. But the file I uploaded, we also have it in this folder, but it's not showing. Why is it not showing? Because it's actually not an Excel file. It's actually a CSV file. I don't know if many of us have worked with CSV files before, but the full meaning of CSV is comma separated values. You can see it here it says Microsoft Excel comma separated values file. So you can actually open it. So when you open it in Excel, it looks like an Excel file, but in the real sense, it's not actually an Excel file. Uh, Let me just show us what a CSV file looks like if you don't open it in Excel. Mhm. So this is what a CSV file really looks like in reality. That's why they call it the comma separated values. You can see each column is separated by a comma. You put the column name, you put comma, you put the value, you put comma. So of course this is very difficult to see, but once you open it in Excel, Excel will pass it into rows and columns so you can easily look at it, so you can easily see it. So, but it's important to understand the difference between XLS file, which is an Excel file, and a CSV file, because sometimes you might actually run into errors when you are trying to load your data. And understanding this difference will help you solve the error. So you can see that among the default sources of data, there is no CSV file here. So you have to go to get data from another source. So there are many ways to import data into Power BI. One is that once you open your blank file, it gives you these opportunities. But let's assume the file you opened was not blank. You can easily come to home here and you can see get data. So you can choose Excel. You can see the same options from Excel workbook, from SQL server, from other sources. So I'm just going to click on get data from another source, and now we can see all of the different sources that are available. I don't remember how many they have, but I think there must be at least maybe over 200 or something. Different data sources that you can use. So because not every time, it's not every time that your data is already in an Excel file. Sometimes you want to data to a database, and that's one advantage that you can see in Power BI. If you connect your data to a database, for example, let's assume you are working for a company that, let's assume you are working for something like Facebook, for a company like Facebook. And in Facebook, you can see that it's not as if they are selling physical items. Where most the kind of data they are analyzing is data of people that are, that are using the website, clicking, viewing videos, and all of that data. Everything you are doing on Facebook is going immediately into the database. So that kind of data, if you want to put it into Power BI for somebody to visualize, maybe their user interactions team or something like that in Facebook that are interested in what are people doing on the website, and all of that data they cannot be downloading it into Excel and then you have to import it. So I believe that the next section of this course, I don't know if we have SQL as part of it. So we'll talk about SQL and how to work with databases. I don't. I'm not the one taking that part. But I don't know if it's part of the course. So but yeah, that's something that you can actually, that's something that is actually part of when you're working
No,
in
it's
it.
not. No, it's not part of the course. It's going to be
Okay,
for the next cohort.
okay, it's going to be for the next course. Okay,
Yes.
so but basically it's something that is essential as a data analyst to know how to use
Yeah,
SQL.
But Python is part of this course.
Okay, no problem, no problem. So yeah. The point I was just trying to make is that it's not every time that your data will come into Excel. Sometimes your data will be in a database, and you want to connect your Power BI directly to that database, so that when new data comes in, you don't have to maybe download it to an Excel file and then have to import it into the Power BI file or something. Instead, it's to be connected directly to a database. And once it's connected directly to a database, there are people that are like anybody that has access to that file, they can just refresh it, and the new data that just came in will be uploaded into it automatically. But for this particular case that we already have our data in a CSV file. So we're just going to click on CSV file and then connect. So you can see that now when I come to my MMC folder, I have all of these different CSV files. And I'm just going to pick up this sales one table file and then import the data. So you can see it's showing us the type of file, the delimiter, which is a comma, and the data type detection. We'll see what this data type detection is all about when we get into Power Query. But you can load your data directly from here, but you can also transform it before loading it. So we are going to click on transform, and that's something I'm going to advise. That's one thing you should keep in mind. One best practice is that you should never ever load data directly. Why? Because the data may be wrong. There may be something there that you need to correct. There may be things that you need to change. So it's always important to transform data first before actually loading it. If I don't know if you are one of those, if you have been following, if you really follow things about data analytics, you always hear things like, oh, data scientists spend 90% of their time cleaning data, blah, 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 and all of those things. So those things are particularly important um, because you need to actually clean your data and make sure it is in the right format before you before you upload it, before you bring it into your data set, before you can actually do anything with it. If your data is not clean, then there is a risk that that when you bring in your data, you are going to end up with wrong values, and that's there's nothing worse than that. Your dashboard can be very beautiful, but if the numbers in it are not making sense, then it can really spell trouble. So for most of today, what we are going to really be doing is this importation aspect or and the transformation aspect. Has any of us here been able to load um has any of us been
Yeah,
able to load the CSV file into Power BI?
yeah, I've loaded the same.
Okay. So it's actually very simple and straightforward. So for the most part, we will be able to do it with work along with me. Most of this data is already clean actually. because so that just to make it easy for us. So when we get into this Power Query editor, you can see that it's different from Power BI. Power Query is also available in Excel. I don't know if during the Excel course if you were introduced to Power Query, but it's a very powerful tool that can be used to transform data. And the number one advantage of Power Query over doing transformations in Excel is that you have a list of things that you have done.
Oh, come on, answer that.
Huh?
Alaikum.
Walaikum salam.
I do have the Power BI on my laptop.
Okay, you don't have it on your laptop.
Yes.
Yeah, you have to download it. I am sorry if you have not downloaded it before. So you can simply okay. So maybe that should have been the first step. But yeah, to download Power BI, you can simply just go click on this Microsoft Store icon on your laptop, depending on how fast your yeah. But if you've not installed it before now, it might be difficult for you to catch up. So just come to your Microsoft Store and search for Power BI, and then you can install it. But I don't know how big it is, how fast the network is. So it may, but I think if you've not installed it, it might be difficult for you to actually follow along. Probably you can just download it and let it be installing in the background and just follow us. Okay,
Okay,
2.5
that's not
gig. Okay. So you can just come here and then you can install because I already have it installed, so it's showing open.
okay. That's not.
Yeah. So now back to Power Query. So when you come into Power Query, one of the major advantages of Power Query is that it keeps track of all the changes that you've done in Excel in your to your data. Sorry, not in Excel. So let's say for example, you're working on a data something in Excel. I mean, I think some of us okay since we've done an Excel course before, some of us might have actually been in that kind of situation. Something just happens where but you don't know what you did. Maybe you're just typing something, and then by mistakenly you click 4 year and something like that. You don't know that anything happened to that data set, and you just continue doing whatever you're doing, and you don't know what has happened. By contrast, Power Query keeps track of every single thing you do. If you look by the right of your screen, there is this applied steps area. So every single thing you do to your data set, you are going to have the list of those things there. So if I delete this column, for example, it shows me here that I have removed a column. So this is one of the very good things about Power Query, and this is very important, especially when you're working with other people. So maybe you're working in a team, and somebody just gives you this data set. You don't know what has happened to the data set. So, but when you have these applied steps here, you can see everything that has been done, and you can easily go back to a previous step and see, oh, okay, before this removed column step, there used to be a column called country. But now that there is this removed column step, it has been deleted. And then you can easily revert to a previous step simply by deleting this step. And then we are back with our country. So it's not like in Excel, maybe you have to start doing Control Z, and maybe you even done some good work after you made that mistake, and now you have to delete even all your good work so that you can trace back your way to where you made the mistake. But here you can simply delete, you can even delete a step in the middle without deleting the most recent step, although it will always give you this warning. But yeah, that's one big advantage of Power BI in terms of data transformation. So when you come into Power BI, Power Query Editor, it's a bit busy, but don't allow it to intimidate you. You can maybe also see this code that may seem a little bit intimidating at first, but it's not that intimidating actually. I think you can also hide it. I didn't remember where to hide it. But yeah, there's a way you can also hide it if you don't want to see the code. But but yeah, so when you come into Power Query, you can see your rows and columns just like an Excel file. and you can see the different panes. In the home pane, you can see the different transfer. Okay, so we'll go through that little by little while also working with the data. So I keep this interesting so it doesn't get boring. So yeah, so once you load your data into Power BI, the first thing you want to check, you see that automatically it has performed some steps for you. The first step is that once you load your data, it shows exactly the way the data looks like from the data stores, from the data source. Then one automatic step it takes is to promote those data into headers. If okay, I've closed the CSV file, but you know that when you have an Excel file, it doesn't tell you that what is the first row is an header. Doesn't like unless maybe you create a table. That doesn't happen automatically. So Power BI assumes that your first row is actually contains all the column headers. So it automatically promotes them. And then the next step is that it detects the data type. So the first thing that you should do, so you see that the first thing that you should do when you come into Power BI, when you load your data into Power BI, is to look at the data type. Where we use the data type on each column, just look at the left here. It shows you the data type. So you can see 1, 2, 3 here. It means that this is an integer data type. So if you click on this, you can actually change data type by yourself because sometimes the detection might be wrong, and so you maybe need to actually change it by yourself. So you can see that our other ID is text, so it's showing as ABC. It's a string. Other date is a date. It detected it correctly, and it's showing a calendar sign here. Delivery mode is a date, and so on. So you can see our numbers, our sales, it has decimal points. So it's the decimal number. Quantity is a whole number. Discount is a decimal number. Profit is a decimal number. So you can see that most of them are actually correct. The only thing I would change here is the postal code. Why? Because the postal code, it looks like they're actually numbers. But if I have two postal codes, if I have the postal code for maybe Lagos and the postal code for Ogun State, and I add these two postal codes together, does it give me the sum of Lagos and Ogun State? No, it doesn't make sense. It's not really a number. It is just a code. It is written using numerals, but it's not really a number. So I don't want Power BI to treat it as a number because if Power BI treats it as a number, it means that you can sum it, you can multiply it, you can do subtraction and all of those things. So I'm going to change it to a text. So I click on this tiny icon here that shows that it's a whole number, and then I change it to text. So it says, okay, change column type. This selected column has an existing type conversion, blah, 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 blah. You can do either. I will choose to add a new step because I want to keep track of everything I've done. So you can see it creates a new step called change type. So then what other transformations do we do here? A transformation that we may also find useful is our date column. Usually when we work with date columns, then we want to separate our year, we want to separate our month, we want to separate our date. So that's something we can also do. And then so we want to create a new column. So when you right click, so one way you can perform transformations on your columns is by right clicking here, and you can see different things you can do. You can copy the column, you can change the type, you can transform it, and all of these other things. You can also see that many of these things are also available here, like choose columns, remove columns, keep rows, remove rows. If you also come to the transform tab, there are also things that you can also do. You can transpose, you can reverse rows. So use first row as headers. If you remember when I said automatically that Power BI does promotes something to headers, you can also do it manually by yourself. Or if you find out that okay, Power BI has used the first row as headers, but in the real sense, there is no header in your data set. Maybe you just have your data set and you just have all your data and you don't have the column names. Then you can also reverse it by clicking use headers as first row. And you can see that it wrote down all the headers down to the first row. So, and then I can decide to give each column its own name. So, but I'm just going to delete that step because we don't actually need it. So yeah, what I want to do here is that I don't just want to have other dates here. Also want to have different columns for year, month, and day. So I'm going to um, duplicate this column because I want to keep the original one, right? So I will duplicate it. So I now have a new order dates column here. You can see the step has been created here, and then I can right click, and when I click on transform, I can just select year, and it extracts the year. Where does it put it? Okay, it's here. So you can see that the year is here, and we have only the year. We don't have any other thing. Then I can rename the column to just rename it as year. So I'll do the same thing to create month and day. Right click, duplicate. Then okay, I can also duplicate this a second time. Duplicate again. So now we have 3. And then when I right click here, I come to transform. Now I select month. I can actually choose the month as a number. I can choose it as a name. I want to show the name of the month. I right click here again and do the same thing. Choose the day. So you can see there are so many different things that you can select. You can just select just day on its own, which will be the day of the month, or you can show day of week, which is which will be day of week is a number from 1 to 7, showing the day of the week. You can so if you select this now, you can it calculates the day of week starting from Monday. Usually, it can. They actually, I thought there used to be an option to see if you are starting from if 0 is Sunday or 0 is Monday. That can actually vary. Let me see how they do that again. Okay, I've already transformed it. I can remove it. So I can remove that step and come back again. Mm, so day of week. You can also select day of year, which will be a number from 1 to 365. I will delete it again so that I can use the same value. So, but what we want here, we just want the normal day of the month. That is the exact day that we have in the date. So, um, so you can also explore all of these other transformations and see which ones which ones could actually be useful to you. And then you can just select day here, and then you can rename this. You can either right click to rename like this and click month, or you can just double click on the header. Once you double click on the header, it will allow you to modify this. So just for the sake of organization, I want to put my year, month, and day beside the other date. And then I'll just control click. So when you control click, when you select one item and you control click on another item, it will select it will select all of them together, just like in Excel and in any other thing on your computer. So I just want to move it. And here, what are it? So you can see 10th November 2022, now it has become year, month, day. You can see the data types are showing, okay, year, month, day. I would also prefer to have my year. I also don't want it to be in numeric form. So I would prefer to actually have it as a text. I can change the data type here. Okay, but it's probably better to have your day as a number, actually. I'll explain why later. Why it's better for you to actually have your day as a number. So that's it. What other transformation can we do here just for us to see the different possibilities that we can have here? Um, Okay, let's say another thing we need in our data set is that we need to know the cost. Let's say we want to do analysis on cost, and here we have sales, we have profit. So if any of us if you've taken even if it's business studies class, we don't even need to have learned accounting. You know that sales minus cost will give us profit, right? So we want to see the actual we want to see the what do they call it? We want to see the cost, which means we need to do sales minus profit. So how do we do that? We can create another column. So just like we were doing before, we can always right click, but I want us to also explore the add column tab. So there are different ways to add columns. You can use columns from example. This column from example, I don't know if you have used Excel. You know, when you are using Excel, maybe you write a formula in one row in your first row, and then you want to drag down that formula. That's exactly how columns from examples work. So you're like writing some values, and then it can just allow you to drag down and fill all of those values in all of the other columns. You can do a custom column. You can do a conditional column that is working based on ifs. So back in bef- there was once upon a time when we have day like this. Um, we did not have that day of week function where you can simply transform your data and select day and just go to day of week. So usually we needed to create a conditional column and say, okay, if if day of week is 0, then you should give Monday. If day of week is 1, you should make it 2. So it's basically like creating a column but using an if statement. And then you can create an index column. An index column is a type of column that helps you to number the number of rows that you have in your data set. Just like we have this row ID, where every row has a unique number. So if you are creating a data set and you need a, what do they call it? Uh, you need a unique ID for each row. You can simply just click on index column, and it creates this column here that has a number for each row. Well, we don't need that. So what we need here is a custom column. So in this custom column, you can write a formula. The kind of formula you're writing is basically just like a simple Excel formula, and you can select your columns from here. You can select sales and then insert minus profit. Insert. And that's it. So we have our sales minus profit. And then we can name that column costs. You click on OK. And that's it. We have a new column cost. So remember, like what I said, when you load your data, the first thing you want to look at is the data type. So we can see our data type here, it is ABC123. So what does that mean? It means that it's an alphanumeric column. This means it could be alphabet, it could be numbers. Power BI does not really know um, what what kind of data type we have in this column. So we can change it. We can teach Power BI that what we actually have here is a decimal number. And when I change that, automatically it becomes a decimal number. So that's it, and we have our data set. Now, if there is anything we have noticed here, I don't know if any of us has noticed something in particular about Power Query versus Excel. I believe most of us attended the Excel class, right? What major difference have we noticed between Power Query and Microsoft Excel? Anybody? Oh, okay. I'm so sorry. I have
The difference is that doesn't require writing any code any formula.
that it doesn't require writing any formula. Yes, partially correct. Okay, okay. It seems more efficient. Oh, sorry. Sorry. I'm just opening the chat now. I'm seeing that I'm going too fast. I'm very very sorry. So, but okay. So that okay. Yes, it is actually more efficient than working in Excel. Another thing, yes, that I forgot to mention in the advantages is that Power Query can handle millions of rows. How many rows do you have in an Excel file? Does any of us know?
A million.
No, not 10,000.
It's a million rows.
Yeah,
1 million.
1,048,756 rows in Microsoft Excel. That's the maximum. And has any of us ever tried to work on a file that has more than 10,000 rows? And maybe you need to create a new column. I don't know if any of us has ever done that.
No.
Okay, let me open my Microsoft Excel with this same calculation that we just did of sales, profit, and cost. Let's look at how it works in Microsoft Excel. How many rows do we have on this data set? Okay, this is just 8,000 rows, so we may not notice it much. But when you do something like this minus this to get our cost, and then you double click. Okay, it's just 8,000 rows, so nothing much. But if you're working on something like 10,000 rows or 100,000 rows, once you double click, you have to like wait before it actually finishes. Before it actually finish loading, or you have to actually, and then if you make a mistake and you have to edit, it's not a nice experience actually. So Power BI is actually very efficient. The actual answer I was looking for, I think we should have seen it by now. Did any of us notice the other answer, the main answer I was looking for? The difference
Possible
between,
data loss.
huh?
I don't understand, sir.
Okay, I said like I'm asking working in Excel versus working in Power Query. There is one major difference, one major paradigm change that is there. I don't know if
Fabia,
any of us noticed it.
Fabia is more organized.
It's more
It's more organized.
I wouldn't say that.
Power Query is more of the automatical process.
To an extent, although for you that you are developing the because we are looking at Power BI now from the perspective of a data analyst that is actually building the report. So for you that is building the report, Power BI is it's actually just as manual as Excel. For your users, yes, Power BI will be more automatic. They will enjoy it more. But for you, from the perspective of building it, it's actually the same amount of manual labor. Then anybody else? Okay, large scale data handling, yes. Okay, I'm just talking on based on what we've seen so far. So one major difference which you have to understand in particular is that
More
when
user
you're
friendly, more user friendly, sir.
maybe. So, but the actual answer I'm looking for is the fact that Power BI, when you're working in Power BI, you're thinking in columns. When you're working in Excel, you're thinking in cells. So, for example, when I wanted to do the calculation based on sales, the cost calculation here in Excel, what did I do? I typed the formula into a single cell and I did sales minus profit. I typed it into a single cell. So now I want it to apply everywhere. Then I have to double click it and I'll make sure it goes down something and ensure that it covers everything. So that is the one major difference that you have to understand when you're working in Power BI versus Excel, and when you're working in Power Query and even in SQL, it's also the same thing. Is that your data is organized in columns, so you're not dealing with cells. So if I want to change something in a particular cell, for example, oh okay, maybe this November, maybe there's a typo in November. If I double click here, I cannot change it. I can't go into the data and change it. So but that's something that you can easily do in Excel, but in Power BI, it's not as straightforward to do that. So, of course, the advantage of this is that once you load your data into Power BI, it's not easy for anybody to change it. And the fact that it's not easy for anybody to change it will mean that there is less room for error. But it also means that it's actually um, less flexible from that point of view. And the other point of view is that when you are thinking of doing transformations, the way you think when you are working in Excel is different from the way you think when you're working in Power BI. It's not necessarily that one is better than the other, depending on the use case. There may be some use cases where Excel is actually better, and some use cases where Power BI is actually better. But you have to understand the fact that everything you are doing it in terms of columns. So immediately I write one formula to change something here, I'm changing it for the entire column and not just one cell. So that's one major shift that you are going to see in the way we are working in Power BI versus the way you were working when you were working in Excel. So I'm so sorry I wasn't taking note of the chat. So some people were saying I was actually too fast. So please, if I lost you at any point, can we pick each other up again? Where did you get lost? Can you let me know? Okay, Abiba said, how did you delete the column headers? Uh, so basically, I'm not really sure what that meant, but I think she was asking about when I was showing how to promote the headers and how to demote it, right?
Also, please, can you tell us again how you loaded the the sheet, the CSV file into Power BI? Because I tried to do it and it's not bringing the load. It's brought the load icon, but I couldn't click on it.
Okay, so I
How
started
much be
from,
new?
so let me answer that first. So I clicked on get data from another source from here and then click on text/CSV. When you click on connect, it takes you to, so you have to find the folder where you stored the file. And then maybe it's probably in your download folders, and then you can select it from there. Did you get that?
Yes, I was able to do this, but when it's imported into Power BI, you clicked on transform. But mine
Yeah.
is not displaying, like it's just kind of blank or blurry. It didn't bring the highlight on it that would make it easy for me to tap on it and be able to transform it.
No, you don't. I don't really get why that would be. Can you maybe send a screenshot in the chat?
Okay. um um I can't do that right now. My laptop just turned off.
Oh, okay.
But don't worry, I can actually catch up on it via the replay.
Okay. So yeah, about the promotion of the headers. So if you come to your home tab here, you can see use first row as headers. So we already have our first row as headers, right? So once you click on that, it shifts the current first row and makes it the new header. Although this is not actually what we want. So like I showed before, any step you perform will show in this applied steps area, right? So the most recent step is this promoted headers. Actually, there's another change types step here, and that's because um, Power BI looks at your first 10,000 rows to determine. You can see okay, so the first 1,000. So you can see it's written here on the bottom left side that column profiling is based on top 1,000 rows. So it looks at the first 1,000 rows in the data and determines the data type for each column based on that. So once I promoted the first row into a header, it changed the content of the first 1,000 rows, and then it had to recheck again and redo the data types based on that. So it's automatically created two steps. So I'm going to delete both steps, which is both the change type sets that Power BI did automatically and the promoted header here. So just click on this X here, and then we are back to the former data that we were on. I don't know if that clears up your question, Habibat. So yeah, anybody else? Are we all on the same page?
Yes, sir.
Okay. So give me one moment. So yeah, so this is where we are. We've done our data transformations based on the things that we are going to need, and we have all our data sets. Okay, one other data transformation I think may also be interesting to learn, which can actually come in handy often, is to split a column. So we have this customer name, for example. Let's assume we don't want the customer name as one name. We want the first name and surnames separately. So we can actually split up this column into two. We can do that from the home here. You can see split column. We can also do the same thing from this transform tab, and we can split columns from here, or we could right click it and we'll find it here. So a lot of Power BI is actually very intuitive. Now, we can actually, for the person that said one difference with Power Query is that you don't write code. The reason why I said it's partially correct is that you can actually write code. Everything that we've done here, all of these transformations that we've done, it automatically writes code in the background. So if I click on any step, I can view the code that Power Query wrote to execute that step here. So this language is called M code, M language. So for most use cases, for 90% of the use cases, you actually don't need to learn M code at all. You can simply just do your stuff around and you can learn it. But for some people that do some super powered stuff on Power Query, they actually use M code to actually execute.
Assalamu alaikum.
Yeah?
No, assalamu alaikum. Sorry. I,
Alaikum
I,
salam.
I think just want to take us back. I watched the video. I mean the recording. But I just want to ask, the drop down for each of the column titles, the items underneath, was it gotten from the top down? I mean the drop down box.
Drop down box, I don't understand.
Error MC. Something like
Oh,
value
okay,
of
okay, yes. Okay, column, that's part of column profiling. So if you come to tools here, okay, no, it's not under under view here, you have these things they call column quality, column profile, and column distribution. So it's actually gotten from the first 1,000 rows of this. So this is what they call a column profile. If I untick it from here under this view, okay, that's actually column quality, not column profile. That's column. So this is column profile. Yeah, we can also look at that too. So these are things that you also do to check the quality of your data. By default, you already have it. So column quality. So it looks at the first 1,000 rows and it looks like look at how many of these values are valid. You can see it just looks at the first 1,000 row. And if there is any empty rows, so usually most of the data sets, there will usually be an empty. Okay, I don't think we have any empty values here. We don't have any missing values here. So this data set is actually quite perfect. So usually maybe if you have an error, for example, one common cause of error is that if you are loading something from Excel, so maybe you loaded some data from Excel and maybe there are some formulas in that data and maybe some of the formulas are in error and you didn't know. So, if there's an error, it will start with an hash. So once you load that into Power BI, it will show error here. It will show that there are some error values and you have to actually fix that. So these are some of the things you actually look at when you first load your data into Power Query, just to confirm that everything is working fine. So yes, those values come from your data set. So another thing you can also look at is your column distribution. So what does column distribution mean? This will take us to some concepts, some important concepts when it comes to data management. That is more than just in Power BI. It's actually something that you should always think about as a data analyst, which we call cardinality and granularity. So this is it can be a bit complex, but the easy way to think of it is that when you talk about granularity, we are talking about how granular is the data, how deep are we diving in. So for example, if we have data by country, if we have data and we have Nigeria, we have Italy, we have France, the granularity of that data is um, is by country. So if you want to go to a lower granularity, if you want to put it there, that's the language that we use. So when we say the granularity is lower, it means we are going to have more data points. So if I say the population of Nigeria is 200 million, the granularity of my data is at the level of country. That data we have only one row, which is just Nigeria, 200 million. So, but if I want to go to a lower granularity, I can decide that I want to see the population in each state. So, for example, Lagos, we have 9 million people. Okay, that's 20 million. Lagos, we have 20 million people. In Kano, we have 21 million people. In Bayelsa, we have 3 million people. In Abuja, we have 7 million people. We are still talking about the same 200 million that we have in Nigeria, right? But now we have about 4 rows, 37 rows of data because we are now at a lower granularity. Is that clear? Do you understand the meaning of granularity with that explanation?
Yes, sir.
So that's so that's something that we are going to so that's where granularity comes in. And cardinality is how big is our data set, which is how many rows do we have. So for example, we have 100 rows in this. In this data set, we actually have about 8,000 rows. The cardinality of this data set is 8,000 rows. If we had 1 million rows, the cardinality of this data would be 1 million rows. So it's so now when we are talking about the cardinality, it's not just about the amount of data, it's about the number of unique data sets. And that brings us to what we are talking about here of this column distribution. That's where it starts to matter. So we have 4 different years in this data set. The cardinality of this year column is 4. So sorry about my previous explanation was not that correct. So I said the data set is 8,000 rows and it's automatically 8,000 cardinality. But no, we are basically talking about the number of distinct items, to use Power BI's language. The number of distinct items is the cardinality of the row. The cardinality of your data set will determine how large your data set is and to determine how fast your Power BI report can be. It will affect the speed of your Power BI report, the cardinality. Why? I won't go into too much detail, but the way Power BI stores this data in the back end, it stores it in terms of the number of distinct values. So if we have 1 million rows, but we have only 4 distinct values like we have here in year, and we have just 2020, 2021, 2022, 2023. If we have 1 million rows in this data set, Power BI will store it as 4 rows in the backend because it's storing only 4 different values. So if you look at this row ID, for example, each row has a different value, and that's why we can see that the number of distinct values here is 1,000. So in the back end, Power BI has to store 1,000 different values. The implication is that Power BI will find it much easier to handle this column that has only 4 distinct values versus this column that has 1,000 distinct values. And that can affect the performance of your report. So if you are working on a project and you have an option of using the same, of getting the same information from 2 different columns, and one has a lower cardinality, which means that there are fewer distinct values, and the other one has more distinct values. That's one way you can optimize your report by removing that row, that column that has more distinct values. For example, this row ID, we can decide that we don't want to load it into our report. Why? Because it's not really useful and the cardinality is really, really high. So we can decide, okay, this thing, maybe it was needed in the database for some reason, but we actually don't need it in our report. So we can decide to remove it because it will just slow down our report. Okay, I'm doing this on a middle step, so let me bring it to the latest step before I delete it. So we can remove it. So that's where this column quality comes in. So if any of us has worked on maybe a data science project before, usually this is one of the things we usually look at when you are doing your exploratory data analysis. You want to see how many kind of distinct rows we actually have and things like that. So that's something we look at for the column quality. So the column quality shows us if there is error or anything here. The column distribution shows us how the column is distributed, which is the number of distinct and unique values. So the number of distinct values is the number of different values we actually have in this data set. So we can see that for our order dates, we have 365 different dates. For our year, we have 4 different dates. While the number of unique values here is the number of values that appear only one time, only once. So you can see that none of these years appear only once because basically we have many orders in the same year. So if there was maybe in 2019, if we had only one order in 2019, then it would have told us, oh, we have one unique value here. So we can see that there are some values, there are some columns that have more unique values. So unique means that that particular value appears only once in the entire data set. So another data set you can look at, okay, this country, you can see that it has just one distinct value. So one inference we can take from here is that this country value is actually useless. Does anybody understand why this country value is useless? Anybody? Anybody with me? Have I been able?
Probably because they are from the same country.
Exactly. Everybody is the same. Thank you very much for that answer. Kudirat. So because everybody is from the same country, it's the same value in all of the data sets, it's not going to show us any new information. So from seeing that there's just one distinct value here, we can decide that okay, maybe this country is actually useless and we don't need it from the data and we can delete it. So that's one insight you can get from this column distribution. So, and the last one here is column profile. So when you click on column profile, it brings up here, we see the distribution here. So you can see the chart here showing us which state is most common. Okay, we have Lagos State. So here we are on the state column. We can also do that for the year. Okay, we have more data for 2022, 2021. But take note of this. Column profiling is based on first 1,000 rows. So this is not telling us the entire data set. So usually you can just use the top 1,000 rows to see if there's any error. Usually, if all the top 1,000 rows are the same data type, then we expect that the entire data set should be the same data type. But if you suspect that there might actually be a mistake somewhere, you can actually click here and tell it to do the column profiling based on the entire data set. And I've actually had an issue like this before where there was a problem in the data set. I had already started building the reports and I had to come back to Power Query again. And what happened there was that in the data set I was using, the data set had so many rows, and then on the final row of that data set, there was a formula there to show the sum total, which is something that is very common. So usually if you are picking something from an Excel file, maybe you actually want to delete that total row because it could actually distort your data. Just imagine that your sale for the year is actually 1 million, and then on each row you have all of the sale from each person. And then on the final row, you now have a total sale. And on that total sale, it shows you that the total sale is 1 million. By the time you load it into Power BI and Power BI calculates the value in the entire column, you get 2 million because you have all of those details and then you have the final value again that will just double it. And I think the time I had that issue, what actually happened was that summation formula, there was an error there. So it was actually bringing error in my report, and I was like, what's going on? So I had to come back and do the column profiling based on the entire data set. And then I saw, okay, oh, there's actually an error in the value here. So let's see. Here, do we have any such issues? I don't think we have any such issues.
Hello?
Hello? Yeah?
In my own case, I don't see the chart showing up. Oh. The chart is not coming up. I need to
When you click on column distribution,
yes.
you have to click on a specific column
Okay.
because it's showing the data for one column. So if I click on a
Yes,
different column to show the
yes.
values for
Yes, rather than it showing the chart, it's showing a gap. It's not showing the chart at all. I
it's
don't
showing
know.
a gap.
Yes, rather than the chart.
Yeah, I think it's probably a problem with Power BI then.
Because this Power BI, I installed it. I downloaded it and I installed it on my system.
Yeah, it could be hanging. It could be that it has an issue or something.
Okay. Ah, okay. Thank you.
Okay, okay. So I don't know why it could be doing that. So, but ensure that if you are sure that you ticked on this column profile, you can actually untick it and tick it again to see if it changes.
It's still the same thing. It's not showing. It's still the same.
I have no idea. Sorry. Okay, no questions in the chat box. So yeah, so we have seen our column distribution, the different ways we can actually access the quality of your data. So thank you very much to the person that asked that question. I hope we've learned something interesting. Did anybody catch my explanation of cardinality and granularity?
Yes, I do, sir.
Okay. Okay. Thank you very much. If one person got it, then I think I didn't waste my time going on that tangent. But we can always read more about it, about modeling data in Power BI and all of that. So yeah, and one other thing I totally forgot, which we should have actually done, is that when you are loading data into Power BI, one of the best practices is also that after that you should also change the names of the columns, because as you can see, like many of these names, they are joined together, which is usually important when you're working with SQL. You find that the importance of this is that it's better for all the names of your variables to be joined together so that your code can actually work correctly. But we don't have that problem in Power BI. So usually once you load your data sets, then you want to put spaces there and make everything look good. So we can just edit this sales one table to okay, our sales data, and then maybe order ID. We can just edit it and put space in it. Rename, put space. Order date, we do the same thing. Delivery mode. So just to make things look good generally. Customer name. So we are just editing the names and putting space there. So you can see as we renamed all the columns, a new step is created here. You can see the code that actually renamed the columns. But we're not going into query. So we have all of these things that we can actually do in our free time. Okay, these are where we can turn off the formula bar. I was saying that we could hide it before. Under our view, we can just hide the formula bar if you're not interested in seeing the code in our add column, our transform. So there are so many different things you can do. Um, but I'll leave that to you to explore on your own. Then when you are done with everything, we can finally close and apply.
Assalamu alaikum, please.
Walaikum salam wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.
Now, how did you get how did you add the calculated column for profits, please?
For I think okay, the profit was already in the data set. So yeah, usually so once you close and apply your data set and you come into the Power BI environment, you can see that the Power Query window has closed. So if you want to get back into the Power Query column at any time, you can just click on transform data, and then we are back into Power Query. So when I wanted to create the column, I just came here to add column. Then I selected custom column. Then the formula we really need to calculate cost is simply sales minus profit. So I scrolled down and I did sales insert minus profit. And that's it. And then I just named it as cost. Then okay. So I'll be canceling that. Exactly.
Yes, yes, yes. Thank you.
So now we come into our Power BI interface. So when we come into Power BI interface, this is another interesting aspect. And
Hello, Assalamu alaikum.
wa alaikum salam wa rahmatullah.
So I noticed that you have already loaded the data. We were talking about split column before, and you haven't finished showing us.
Ah, subhanallah. Yeah,
Also, noticed for the region. So we are supposed to add it because we have Lagos that has been arranged with the region. So hope it won't affect the results when you are presenting it.
Yes, we have Lagos amongst the region. The reason why I put Lagos among the region was basically because I actually created this data set myself. So why I put Lagos there is because Lagos has far more sales than any other state. So usually, especially when it comes to business, at least in my own experience, I don't know if it's the same for every company, but many companies they basically have their headquarters in Lagos, and so they consider Lagos as an independent region, which because the person that is managing Lagos, if you I don't know if you've worked in any company, it's very unlikely that you have a sales manager for Southwest, and that sales manager will be handling Lagos. It usually doesn't happen that way. You have a separate person that is in charge of Lagos on its own, and then now somebody else that is responsible for the rest of Southwest. So it's that's how it tends to happen in most cases. So I just wanted to reflect that realistic business scenario where we don't just consider the regions and just say north, south, this, but we also consider Lagos as a separate region. And you would see, even when we get to the data set, you find out that even Lagos alone has more has more sales than any other region. It doesn't really make a lot of sense um, for us to actually have it as part of Southwest. So that's more of a semantic issue. But thanks for catching that. That's also something that's actually important as a data analyst, that you understand the context of why certain things are put in certain ways, and to reflect that when you are presenting your data, so that the people that you are presenting to actually understand, you're actually speaking the same language as the people that you're working with. So if you decide to just put everything at Southwest, and then you get to the meeting and then you create the dashboard and you're like, which kind of dashboard is this? We cannot see Lagos sales. So and they cannot be comparing Lagos and Anambra. They want to be comparing Lagos and Southeast. So that's but that's something that is more of semantics, more of business inside internal company knowledge rather than um, not much of a technical data issue. Let me put it that way. So thanks for that question. So okay, I wanted to just show a split column, which is something that is
All right. So, sorry about the interruption. Right now, we'll be going for like 2 or 3 minutes break. So, if there are any form of questions that you can ask apart from the ones that you've been asking, please ask right now. so that we can catch a breather, we can stand up for a stretch. Let's make it like there about 5 minutes, right? So we can stand up, stretch, and do every other thing because we've probably been sitting for a long time here. So, but right now you can ask all the questions that you want to ask.
Yeah, like in the chat, right?
They can ask, they can unmute themselves, they can, yeah, so.
Hello, assalamu alaikum.
Walaikum salam wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.
Yeah, I can see that. I think the chart, the distribution has come. The chart has come, so
Okay.
it has resolved. So I want to ask these distinct and unique numbers. I can see that the distinct numbers, the distinct values are normally higher than the unique values. I don't know if we can have a kind of exception in which it can be the reverse. And what is the implication of that? Thank you.
Um, I don't think it's possible for us to have more unique values than distinct. Yeah, it's not possible to have more unique values than distinct because the distinct values is telling us how many different values do we have in the data set. So if you look at this meeting now, we have how many people are here? Maybe there are 20 people. If there are, and let's say we are trying to get the number of distinct names. So if everybody has a different name, if there are 20 people in this meeting, then there will be 20 distinct names and there will be 20 unique names, because unique is what, how many times something appears only one time. Do you get? So the number
Yes,
of so in the maximum case scenario, such as if you look at the row ID column, which is the maximum scenario, is that every value is different and every value appears only once. So the implication in that particular case is that the number of distinct values is equal to the number of unique values. But in a case where we have some values that appear multiple times, then if a value appears multiple times, automatically what's going to happen is that that value will not be counted as a unique value. So that means the number of unique values will decrease. But the number of distinct values, yeah, it will also decrease, but not necessarily at the same rate as the number of unique values. Let's say, for example, we have a data set. Let's say that we have a data set of 20 items. Maybe, okay, let's say we are looking at the region column, for example. We made 20 sales, and 15 of them are from Lagos, and 5 of them are from other states. So how many distinct values will we have? We are going to have Lagos plus 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 states. We are going to have 6 distinct values. But how many unique values do we have? That's we are counting the number of values that appear only once which means that those five other states, each of them appears only once, but Lagos appears multiple times. So unique will now will have, the number of unique values will be five. So yes, the number of distinct values will always be more than unique number of unique values.
Okay, but in this case, in this our present case, the distinct value is 7 and the unique value is 0. How come it is like that?
The unique values is the number of values that appear only once. So number of unique values can be zero if none of the items appears only once. So like the example I just gave of number of 20 sales from six different states. So let's assume that okay, instead of having six different states, 16 people bought in Lagos, then two people bought in Abuja, two people bought in Ogun State, two people bought in Kano. So you see that Kano will appear twice, Abuja will appear twice, Ogun will appear twice, Lagos will appear 16 times. Nobody is appearing only once. So our unique values will be zero. So that's why if you look at your column, the year column, for example, number of unique values there is zero because there is no year where we sold only one item. In each year, there are people that sold multiple times.
Okay, thank you very much.
You're welcome.
Oh, all right. So we can go back to our class now. Time for the first. We'll probably be ending around there about 11:04. Thank you very much.
So, yeah. So up till now, we've been working in Power Query, and that's what's going to happen in reality. We're going to actually spend a lot of time working with our data model to ensure that everything is everything is all right, everything is perfect before we actually start trying to build visualizations. So I wanted to show us how to split a column because that's something that happens often. That's a very common use case. So I'm going to, so we want to split the customer name column, and then I'm going to click on transform and come to split column. So when I click on split column, it gives me different options of how to split. That's okay. Maybe we have some uppercase. So maybe we have two names and one is uppercase, one is lowercase, and then okay, we want to divide it based on that. So any name that is uppercase should be in one column. All of those that are lowercase should go to another column. Or we want to do it by position or by number of characters. So we can explore these depending on the situation. So for example, maybe we have phone numbers, for example, and we are looking at, okay, we want to separate the O80 parts, for example. Then we can split by number of characters and say, take away the first three columns where they have O80, and then just start from all of the remaining values. So we can explore all of these options depending on the situation. Many of these are things that we can explore on our own. But in this particular case, we know that there is a space in between name and surname. So we can actually split column using a delimiter. So a delimiter is anything that appears in the middle of that separates one value from another. For example, here in this customer ID, we have FA dash and then we have a number. So that dash is a delimiter. So in this case, our delimiter is space. So we click on by delimiter and then we say, okay, specify the delimiter used to split the text column. split at leftmost delimiter, which means the first time it appears, rightmost delimiter, the last time it appears, each occurrence. So we are going to choose leftmost delimiter. Why? Because if I choose each of occurrence of the delimiter, it means that if somebody has three names, we are going to end up with three columns. And we don't want that. We want only first name and last name. We don't want middle name. So if we want, hello? Is someone saying something? Okay. So if you're in a data set, maybe everybody has their full government name here, and everybody has three names: first name, middle name, surname. If I click on each occurrence of the delimiter, it means that every time there is a space, it's going to separate it and create a new column. And our customer name will now have three columns. So we can say first name, middle name, surname. But in this case, everybody has only two names, just name and surname. And I don't want more than two columns. I just want first name, last name. So I can simply, so I want it to pick that delimiter only once, and the delimiter I want is space. But I can also select other delimiters, colon, comma, equal, type. Okay, maybe in this other case where we actually have dash, I can just select custom and I can click dash. But the column we are dealing with currently has space. So we can just simply use space and click on OK. And now we have two columns, customer name 1, customer name 2. And then we can rename this into first name and last name. Are we together on that?
Yes.
Yes,
So,
yes.
so we can close and apply. And now our data set can now come into Power BI. So we won't get too much into the part of building visualizations today. I think we have about maybe 15 minutes left. So um, I'm just going to take us through the interface of Power BI, and then we'll see. Actually, building a chart in Power BI is very, very simple. We are already on our report view. To build a chart, we can just come here to our visualizations aspect, click on line charts. Let's say we want to show the time series. We want to see all the sales by day, for example. We can simply drag our column and put it on it and put it inside the chart.
So someone is asking a question here. The person is saying, is it possible for us to combine the names in one column?
For us to combine,
For us to combine the names in one column.
yes, it's possible for us to do that. Let's come back here. We can simply do the same thing. Yeah, we can reverse just what we just did. So where is our first name and last name? Let's assume that originally the thing came in two different columns and I wanted to put it back in the same in as one column. So we can simply select the column and click on this other column, control click on the other column, then right click, and then we can click on merge columns. So it asks us if we want to put a separator there. So if we don't put a separator there, it just joins everything together like this. So but we can also put a separator there and just right click, merge columns, separator, we want it to put a space, okay, and then we are back where we started. And then we can rename this as full name. Okay, our customer name, try. So was that clear? Sorry, I can't see the chat. So please, if you want to ask a question, it's preferable that you unmute it and ask so that I can hear you. So I was just showing us how simple it is to create a chart in Power BI, and we put here, we put sales, and this is it. Just like that, we have a chart. Very simple. But it's important for us to go through all of the back end so that we know what we really know what we are doing. Because if we can simply just tell Power BI. I mean, these days there's even Copilot in Power BI. Walaikum salam wa rahmatullah.
Please, can you help us to go back to how you generate that chart?
How I generated the chart. Yeah, I just wanted to show us how simple it is to actually create a chart in Power BI and how it doesn't actually take time. But we will still go back into creation of the charts in more detail, which will be most tomorrow's class. So we'll go into detail on creation of charts. But today we are mainly just working on how to load our data and understanding the Power BI interface and understanding the kind of transformations we can actually do in Power BI before we actually come to the creation of charts. So the creation of charts is I would say, okay, can I say it's the easy part? Yeah, to an extent, it's the easy part. So you can simply come to these visualizations well, select any type of chart that you want, and then pick the values that you want. Okay, I want to see the order dates and I want to see the sales. And Power BI will do it. Or even if you don't want, if you don't even know the kind of visualization you want, you can simply just pick up. Okay, we want to see the sales by state. We just bring state and put it here. We just bring sales and put it here, and Power BI will choose a chart for us. And you can see that okay, in this particular case, it decided to choose a map. You can see that how big Lagos sales is. So that's just so, but yeah, we're not going deep into visualization now. For now, we just want us to get familiar with the Power BI interface. So, yeah, the last thing we'll just be looking at today are the different types of views you have in Power BI itself. We were working mostly in Power Query earlier. So now we are going into the types of views that you have in Power BI. What are the types of view? The first view is the report view, which is where we are right now, where you can actually create your charts. The second view is the table view. The table view shows you your data set. So you can see the entire data set here. And you can look at and you can explore the values. You can look at it because, like I said, you know what I was talking about, the fact that in Power BI you are dealing with columns, right? You're not dealing with you're not dealing with cells. You're not dealing with each individual value. You are dealing with each column at a time. And sometimes once you are working in here, you are writing DAX and you're doing a lot of work here, you actually lose connection with what is actually going on in the data. So sometimes when you want to debug or you want to, you need to actually look at the actual data, and you can just do some minimum transformation here. You can't really do a lot of transformation here. You can just do some filtering and ordering just for the sake of viewing the data, but not really for doing transformations like in Power Query. For transformations, you have to always go back to Power Query, and to go to Power Query, you come to Home and you select Transform Data, and it will bring you back to Power Query. So, but this table view just helps you to view the data, to see the data. Then the third view is the model view. This is where you see your data model. Today, we are not talking about data modeling because all our data is in a single table. In many real life situations, actually, in the simplest situations, it will be like this. But when you start dealing with very large data sets, the importance of data modeling will come in, where you have to use star schema. So I'm going to so we're going to talk about star schema tomorrow, but the but tomorrow inshallah. So but for the data set, we are showing it that I brought it in as a single table so that for the beginning aspect, things are actually much easier and straightforward. So if you had different tables, then you're going to have them here. And then we have the semantic model. Semantic model is something that is actually a new introduction into Power BI. I think it was just introduced earlier this year, where you can look at a lot of things, a lot of complex stuff, like like these cultures. It can affect your formatting. The language you are using on your computer can affect your formatting. One very common thing that you may come across if you're working in an international setting is that in the EU here, they use commas as they turn around the comma and the full stop. So for decimal points, they actually use a comma to show decimal point. And for the thousand separator, if you have 100,000, after your 100, instead of putting a comma, then they put dots. So that can actually affect the way your Power BI processes your data. If somebody gives you a data set that has that kind of thing, then you probably want to change the language, the culture, and things to make it into an EU model. So we're not going to talk too much about semantic models. These are actually a bit more of advanced stuff. But when we create relationships, so when we are talking about data modeling tomorrow, inshallah, we'll look at that a little bit. But so this is the model view where we actually create. So I can show the model view of the other dashboard that I created, where we actually have a model where we have different tables. So where we have a product table, we have a customer table, we have a date table, we have a sales table, we have a location table. So we'll talk about this tomorrow, inshallah. So but we also have but here we have a single table for everything, where everything is just in a single table. So I'll talk about the importance of data modeling tomorrow, inshallah. Why, instead of keeping all our data in a single table like this, where we actually break it down into various tables, and why we have to do data modeling. So, but one part of data modeling that we can already talk about today is that when you come to tables and select this, you can assign, you can start looking at different types of values here. So for example, we have day here. So when you click on a column here, it gives you the details about the column. We have the name of the columns. We have the synonyms. We'll talk about synonyms later, but synonyms become very important when you're working with AI in a data set. For example, let me come to sales. When I come to sales, if somebody is working with AI on my data set and it asks AI, please show me the total revenue by year. It's the AI will look at my data set and it will see sales, but it will not see revenue, and it will not be able to answer that question. So that's the importance of having synonyms. So me as the Power BI designer or developer, I can put my synonyms there that okay, oh, I know that my users they may actually want to ask for revenue instead of sales. So I just put revenue there so that the so that if somebody searches for revenue, they can get an answer. Okay, we also have quantity, the same thing. Oh, okay, maybe a user just like I want to see the sales volume for this year. That's also something that you hear a lot. And so Power BI just sees quantity, doesn't see volume, doesn't know what that means. I can actually put sales volume here. So, and if we look here, we can see the properties of each column. We can see the quantity, We can see the okay, it's a data type. What kind of data type is it? Is it a number? Is it a text? Is it time? You can see that, and then we have format. Now, this format, one place where it gets useful is if you have uh, is it here? Okay, data category. Okay, it's actually data category. If you have something like postal code, for example, so we have postal code here. So okay, let me go through everything before I go to another column. Sorry. So you can choose how to sort your column, for example, and we'll come to the sorting later on, inshallah. Okay, I think we can. Okay, yeah. When we are doing data modeling, we can look at some of the other data modeling decisions we actually have to make. Then data category. This one is just, for example, if you have postal code, if you have a country, if you have a state, you can tell Power BI that this is a state, this is a location. And sometimes Power BI already sees these things automatically. So these are the things that we have for this quantity column. So one column we want to look at now is this day column. Why do we need to look at the day column? Because we have this part here where it's telling us summarize by sum, which means that by default, once you put your day inside your data set, it's going to sum it up. For example, let me come to the report view. Let's say day, I just put it into this report. You see the sum of day, but it does not make any sense. We don't want to add up the days because the number does not make any sense in reality. It's not a number that we can sum. So we just come to our model view and we come to the day and we tell Power BI that don't summarize day for me, please. And we click on none. You see that that summation sign has disappeared, the sigma there, that disappeared because it's not going to be summing day. If you go back to the report view and look at that same report, if we do the same thing now, you see that it doesn't sum it anymore. It shows everything individually because it now knows that it's not supposed to sum it up. So unless somebody decides to explicitly sum it, it's not going to perform a sum. So, but for something like sales, that's what we want, right? If I drop sales here, I want it to automatically show me the sum of sales, how much we sold. So that's the expected behavior. But for day, I don't want that to happen. So I do that in the model view. So for the next class, inshallah, we are going to pick up from this model view. I think I should try to send the data set for that one ahead of the class so that we can also load it. Um, so we'll just breeze through the Power Query aspect again tomorrow, inshallah. Then we'll come to the model view, work on the modeling for star schema, which is the case where we have various tables, and then
Sir,
go to.
please, I have one question.
Okay, yeah, I can hear you.
Yeah, when I drag the state and the sum, the way it shows the map. So when I drag it on my reports page, it's just showing blank. Don't know what's happened.
It's showing blank.
Yes, just indicate sum of sales by state, but it's not showing anything inside the chat box.
It's probably loading or something. I don't know why it would behave like that. So
Okay.
um, generally, it's not every time it's going to show map by default. So it
Oh,
could actually show a different type of chart. It could also show a bar chart, but I wouldn't expect it to do anything else. It would either show a bar chart or a map.
it's not showing anything, but let me see if it's still going to come up.
So yeah, so all of that we can see that here. So we can do all of these formatting issues. We can deal with it in this model aspect. Also for something like postal code, we know that it's a num. You shouldn't consider it as if it's a number. You should not summarize it. And so I think that's all. So the one new addition that you also see in Power Query is also this DAX query view, where we can run DAX queries. So although we won't talk about it too much because there's not much to do here, and also we don't want to dive into the complexity of DAX. But you start to understand the importance of this when you really start working in DAX, because DAX can be really really complex, usually because you cannot see the data set. So the importance of this data query view is for you to try your DAX formula and see what the results will look like. And usually in the normal report view, you don't have that ability. So I don't know. I think the class we've exceeded the class time. So thank you very much.
All right, thank you very much, sir. Thank you very much. So we really appreciate our facilitator. If you have any other questions right now, like you can ask your questions. We have there about like 3 or 5 minutes to add to this. Other than that, we'll round up. I mean, we'll shut the class. So please ask your questions. I'm seeing some people asking about resending attendance. Please, the attendance is already in the group link. Like it's already in the group chat. You can just check the group chat and you see the attendance. Please, we won't be entertaining any uses this time. You'd have to, yeah. So if you are yet to be added to the WhatsApp group, I noticed that a lot of people, we sent them WhatsApp invites, but they didn't accept the invite. So some of you have your WhatsApp on restrictions. So you probably have to remove those restrictions. I can see like 2 or 3 people whom I have sent invites to, but they refuse to accept the invite. Thank you very much once again to our facilitator. Kudirat, you have a question? Yes, please go on.
Yes, like concerning the attendance, the WhatsApp group. Sorry, not attendance, the WhatsApp group. I wasn't sent any link. I've been looking for that throughout last week. I did not see any link.
Okay. So please just fill the attendance. Honestly, I can still see some names that I sent the invites to here. They are yet to acknowledge. So funny enough, yours is not there, but I sent those.
Okay,
But hopefully,
that one is okay.
who's that? Sorry. Hopefully, I would add you to it.
All
So
right,
please.
thank you.
Uh, any other question? Any other question? Please fill the attendance. Please fill the attendance. All right. Thank you very much. Teacher really did a whole like a really great job. Really appreciate. Yeah. So probably we'll be reaching out to our facilitator to teach us a lot of SQL. Well, but believe me, you are going to be working on data sets with Power BI and Python very soon. So please pay attention to this in order for you to be able to build like portfolio project for yourself. Depending on how the turnout goes, we are probably going to be giving links to uh, internship, but I'm not guaranteeing that yet. But just ensure that you do your projects, your works, and please do the attendance. Thank you very much for cooperating. At this point, I think I have to leave the call for there about 2, 3 minutes. Whoever has filled the attendance can leave, and those that have further questions can drop it on the WhatsApp chat. Thank you very much, facilitator, sir.
It's my pleasure. Assalamu alaikum. So for those of us that were not able to follow, we should also try to download the data sets, to download the Power BI, and also see if we can load the data on our own. Explore. That's the best advice I can give you. No course, I repeat, no course will teach you exhaustively how to use a tool as much as you can learn by exploring on your own. So any course, even this training, will only give you access to the basics. You are going to have to discover a lot of things by yourself depending on the kind of problems you want to solve. So no, it's so yeah, that's just what I wanted to add. So we should try to just look at how we can load the data on our own to explore the different kind of functions that are available, test them and see how they work. Even the ones that you may not need at this moment, just test and see what happens when you try it out. And look at the Power Query, look at the model view, the reports view. Some of you can even start building your visualizations and then you can before we start working on it together tomorrow. So that's just it. So I come to.
Jazakumullah khairan.
وأنتم فجزاكم الله خيرا.
Thanks for this opportunity. May Allah reward you.